Buongiorno a tutti, grazie di essere venuti. Oh, sorry, I forgot that this is in English. Thank you for coming. This workshop has been organized by the Italian Committee on Large Dams, and if you look at the title is Dams and Reservoir, Climate Change, Adaptation and Public Awareness Strategies. Three components: dams, climate change, public awareness, public acceptance. And if you think we have the cause producing needs for dam, the climate change is affecting energy, so hydropower, is affecting agriculture, so irrigation, is affecting extreme floods, so flood defense. So climate change asks for dams, but dams cannot be constructed without public acceptance. And this is the problem. It's rather strange that even in a period in which we have the need for dams more clearer than ever, probably, I think in the European community, in the European region, still the public acceptance is very, very poor. Talk about a new dam in Europe, and immediately you have the word against. So it's important to discuss and to understand probably where we made errors in the past, because there is no, this discrepancy between the needs and the acceptance means, in my opinion, that also the dam community made some error in the past, maybe in the communication or in other places. So it's useful, important to have opportunity to discuss this subject like we are going to do now. So let's start. It's my pleasure to start this workshop introducing Michel Lino. Few words. Michel Lino spent its more than 40 or more than many years of professional experience in the field of dams, hydraulic structure, hydropower projects, and currently is a consultant and advisory for many owners and contractors. He has been president of the French Committee on Large Dams, and he is currently the president of the ICOLD, International Commission on Large Dams. For those that are not familiar, remind, ICOLD is the reference organization for people working on dam field at a world scale. More than 100 countries, each one having its own national committees, construct this organization that is chaired currently by Michel. So the introduction is over. Please, Michel, I give you the floor.
Thank you very much. A great pleasure for me to be here in Italy for this presentation on an initiative led by ICOLD about this World Declaration on the Role of Dams for Energy Transition and Climate Change Adaptation. So I will present this initiative, which is ongoing. So ICOLD, Giovanni introduced a little. It is an international commission on large dams, and it is a non-governmental international organization founded in 1928, so nearly 1 century ago. And at the moment, it has 106 member countries. An estimation of 20,000 members, which are engineers, geologists, scientists, hydrologists from governmental or private organizations, consulting firms, universities, laboratories, construction companies, financial institutions also. ICOLD leads the profession in setting standards and guidelines to ensure that dams are built and operated safely efficiently, economically, and are environmentally sustainable and socially equitable. This is within the mission, mission statement of ICOLD. ICOLD is assisting nations to prepare to meet the challenges of the 21st century in development and management of the world water and hydropower resources. You can see on the screen some type of documents that are issued by ICOLD. Some are bulletins, others as position paper, others at World Declaration. And we are dealing today with this World Declaration on the role of dam at the moment. So the initiative of this World Declaration was launched by the ICOLD board in Gothenburg, in our annual meeting in Gothenburg in June 2023. And the two persons are myself and Lisa Bensasson, who is the link between the board and the committee, the special committee that is drafting the declaration. Two chairs have been chosen and set up. Davendra Sharma from India and Enrique Cifres, maybe some of you know them. And we had contributions in this special committee to draft this declaration from Greece, France, China, Nigeria, Argentina, and Iran. So try to be international group to prepare this declaration. So this is the summary of what I will discuss today. So first, we will speak about our changing world impacted by climate change, the role of dams and reservoirs in climate change adaptation, the role of dams in climate change mitigation, and especially the role of dams in clean energy transition. And we will finish by 11 key recommendations. So our changing world. First, population growth. The global population has risen from 1.5 billion in the early 20th century to nearly 8 billion today, with projection of 10.4 billion by 2100. This growth increases water demand, which could rise by 20 to 30% by 2050. Water demand and food security. The current global water demand is around 4,600 cubic kilometers per year, with 70% used for agriculture, for irrigation and agriculture. Feeding a population of 9.7 billion by 2015 will require more fresh water storage to avoid water stress to up to 4.5 billion people. Climate change impact. Human activities, mainly through greenhouse gas emissions, have unequivocably caused global warming, with global surface temperature reaching an increase of 1.1 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial time level in the past decade. And you have on the picture the projection, which depends, of course, of our actions, climate action, and it is very wide. And as you know, the trend is not so good at the moment. The APCC AR6 report has issued alarming forecast on global climate change, warning an increasing temperature, extreme weather events, and rising sea levels. I don't know if you hear the radio this morning. There was very, very big floods in Valencia, in Spain, with more than 400 millimeters rainfall and a lot of people, a lot of casualties, a lot of fatalities. This night, it happened this night. Changes in precipitation patterns, increased evaporation rates, melting glaciers are expected to exacerbate water scarcity in many regions. Increasing water storage is the solution to secure water and food supply in a more populated and warmer world. Dams and reservoirs for climate change adaptation, floods and drought management. Storage reservoirs helps to mitigate flood risk and reduce the frequency of inundations. Enhanced dam safety standards are also required due to the uncertainty of climate-induced flood event. So we need more reservoirs, but also we need to ensure safety of these dams in a changing world with more extreme events and more extreme dams also address droughts, providing resilience through annual and interannual water storage, supporting human uses and maintaining ecosystems. Water supply and irrigation. Dams with reservoirs assure water supply and food safety under climate-induced conditions. Multipurpose dams projects and integrated river basin management are needed. Increased storage volume in reservoirs and effective water and sediment management are necessary to ensure climate resilient supply for drinking water, agriculture, energy generation, environmental needs with stakeholders' considerations. So more dams and more multipurpose dams and integrated river basin management. Increased freshwater storage and integrated river basin management enhances resilience to climate change. This has been shown by several scientific studies that resilience is enhanced by storage. So clean energy transition now. Renewable energy goals. Achieving net zero emission by 2050 requires a huge increase in renewable energy, particularly solar and wind. Total global electricity generation is expected to rise 2.5 times by 2050. Hydropower has a major role to play here. Hydropower provides low carbon, flexible energy storage, supporting intermittent renewable like solar and wind. The current pace of new hydropower contribution has to double from 2030 to 2050. This is a statement by the International Energy Agency. And it means a very big effort for our profession. Challenges. There are many challenges, financial uncertainties, regulatory ambiguities, and administrative delays in the new hydropower and storage project, as you know. Clear frameworks and streamlined permitting processes are needed to foster hydropower development. Hydropower is the backbone for clean energy transition. I think I could have, if I had the permission, use the logo of Aquawatt for this. Maybe I will ask this permission. Dams and environment. Understanding the potential effect of dam construction is crucial for mitigating the impact of dams and reservoirs, which must be evaluated and properly assessed in environmental impact assessment and environmental management plan. As Giovanni said, one of the mistake maybe is public awareness, and maybe we did not communicate in a proper way. And we have this gap between the need and the mean, which is very crucial. The positive and negative impacts of reservoir need to be carefully studied and weighted against each other. Better understanding of dam impacts and effects or preventive and mitigation measures enhance sustainability through their life cycle. I think these aspects of public awareness, communication are very, very crucial also. So now the recommendation from ICOLD for this declaration. So first, develop water storage capacity worldwide. So per capita storage capacity has been steadily declining since the 80s due to population growth, sedimentation in reservoirs, and a decline in dam construction pace. New storage are needed for energy transition and to maintain the traditional benefits of dam under the new challenging conditions shaped by climate change. I think that this picture is not so far from Italy. It is in Switzerland, I think. Second recommendation, speed up hydroelectric development. Policymakers and civil society needs to focus on sustainable storage-based hydro schemes to balance growth and energy transition towards the net zero goal. I know that in some countries in Europe, there are very steady construction projects of pump storage, but it is not the case in Italy, I think, not the case in France. So we have some work on that also. Oh, sorry. Third, develop hydroelectric potential in the developing world. In particular, in some area of the world where only 10 to 30% of hydroelectric potential have been harnessed. It demands significant efforts, commitment, and cooperation among the main stakeholders, such as international organizations, governments, relevant institutions, NGOs, and civil society. So you can see, I take the example of Africa, where the potential, it is the green bar, is very high, and the developed potential is the blue, the dark blue, it is very low. So there is a huge potential in Africa, and maybe the same in some part of South America, South Central Asia also. Fourth recommendation, include energy storage in water laws and licensing regulation as a new official use of reservoir. So energy storage, it is amazing when you read the press, and when they speak of energy storage, generally they speak of battery. It is very rare that they are speaking of our hydro battery, which are dams and hydro pump storage. Another recommendation, establish a clear and stable regulatory framework for energy storage, because it has not been set up as a new function and the regulation is generally not appropriate for that. Sixth, implement administrative reform to simplify and expedite procedures for granting concession for new hydroelectric and pump storage projects, especially concerning environmental permitting and grid access. This has been done, for instance, in India, where for pump storage, they have a different regulation than other hydropower scheme, because it is considered as a crucial need, and also the environmental impacts can be very reduced, especially with closed loop circuit, where the impact is very little. Encourage concessional financing needed to boost long-duration energy storage in the reservoir. As you know, the hydropower is a very capitalistic business. You need a lot of money to start it. It is very good on the long term, but you need a lot of money to start it. And so you have to encourage the concessional financing for these schemes. Highlight the positive environmental impact of dams and reservoirs, contributing to water needs and the energy transition, recognizing in many cases the positive impacts can overweight other negative impacts. And it is also related to communication and public awareness. 9, the recommendation, strengthen dam safety management in face of extreme events exacerbated by climate change, through surveillance, rehabilitation and upgrading, real-time flow forecast, and early warning systems, optimize reservoir management operation and capacity building. Of course, we can propose dam solution to the society only if they are safe. And as you know, we have in the last decades a lot of failures of dams. So we have to strengthen, and the picture of the guy, it refers to some Greek might. It means that dam safety is you have to do it over and over. It is an everlasting concern and very important. The World Declaration on Dam Safety was a World Declaration, the same type of the one we are discussing, but that was issued in, I think it was in 2019, something like that. It was. And last recommendation, not last, investing in sustainable water and sediment. I insist also on sediment management. It is essential to preserve the function of dams and reservoirs, considering techno-economical, environmental, and regulatory constraints. And the last recommendation is about promoting research and development into new technologies that facilitate climate change mitigation and adaptation efforts. Implementation of hybrid hydro battery system, virtual power plants, automated data systems and comprehensive information systems, advanced materials for sustainable dam construction and rehabilitation. The World Declaration draft has been unanimously approved in New Delhi in October 2024, and you have a picture of at the end of the our last General Assembly. And now we are on the process of finalizing this declaration. So we are, it has been drafted. The national committees of ICOLD, like ITCOLD, has been consulted. There was a workshop in New Delhi to discuss about the draft. And then this year, we are reaching the sister organization like ICID, IHA, World Bank, we hopefully UECN and WWF, COP29, to sign with us this declaration. And we plan to sign the declaration and to have an event on that in Chengdu in May 2025, which will be this declaration, which is towards the public. It's not an internal document of ICOLD. It is to communicate outside. It will be signed and disseminated at that time. And I will finish by two slogans that could be adopted. Storing water for securing the future, and dam and reservoirs for a resilient and sustainable world. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Michel. Thank you. Let's continue our work. I invite Antonella Frigerio to join us. A few words to introduce her. Antonella Frigerio works in Ricerca Sistema Energetico, that is a research public company devoted to the safety and efficiency of the electrical national system. He's here also because he served as vice chairman of the ETIP. ETIP is the...
I will explain it later, so if you...
Okay, you will describe that is devoted to the future of hydropower. He's serving as vice chairman. So he's currently also the vice director of the Department for Sustainable Development of Renewable Sources. I give her the floor. Thank you, Antonella.
Okay, thank you, Giovanni. So the co-author of this presentation is Denis Albrecht, that is from EDF, and is the chair actually of the governing board of the ETIP HYDROPOWER. We have a second co-chair, that is Peter Stettner from Andritz, Austria. So just before start talking about climate change, I would like to introduce the ETIP HYDROPOWER, so to explain why we have decided to do that. We have to consider that our energy strategies at a European level are driven by the Strategic Energy Technology Plan, but we are in a fast changing landscape. So we need to adapt this set plan accordingly to that. We have to take into account the geopolitical situation and the action that we are taking to adapt to climate change. So at the end of last year, the European Commission decided to issue a communication on about the revision of this set plan. And as you can see, this document has a very strategic role in delivering the Green Deal, Repower EU, and Green Deal Industrial Plan at European level. So what are the key actors of this set plan? The first one, we can say, are the implementation working groups that have the task to issue the implementation plans on specific energy technologies. And we have also the European Technology and Innovation Platform, and this platform are bring together all the European Union countries industries, researchers, and also other association. And the aim of this technology platform is to promote the market uptake of the energy technologies that are needed for our transition. And finally, we have also to consider the European Energy Research Alliance, that is the research pillar of our set plan. So we have plenty not, but several ETIP technology implementation platform related to different technologies, the smart grids, the cooling and heating, the geothermal, photovoltaics, and so on. But there was no ETIP devoted to hydropower. And considering the context that we are and the energy transition, we have to make people aware about the balancing services that hydropower can provide for this transition, that now we can say that are taken for granted by the policymaker, by also the common people. So, moreover, hydropower play another problem because it was considered a mature technology. So in the past, there was a drastic reduction in funds for research and innovation, and it was a very important problem because they stopped the development of this sector. So we decided that it was time to change paradigm and to launch a new ETIP on hydropower, because we would like to make people aware about the role of hydropower in the European Green Deal towards a climate-neutral energy system by 2050. So why this ETIP? Because we have a lot of associations related to hydropower, but our idea is to unify the voices of hydropower to make a European policymaker aware about the important role of hydropower. We would like to identify the priorities, the new priorities of research and development needs on hydropower, because the context is changing. So we have new needs on research and innovation. We would like to build the European Commission vision about the services of hydropower, not only for the energy transition, but also for social aspect, because they can contribute to climate change adaptation. We would like to also to increase the flexibility and storage capacity of our existing plants with innovative solution. And it's also important to make hydropower plants more environmental friendly and sustainable, because this will help to the public awareness, to better the public awareness of these plants. So taking into account two pillar documents that were issued by the Hydropower Europe project in recent years, that are the Research and Innovation Agenda and the Strategic Industrial Roadmap, we identified three main working groups. The first one is related to flexibility and storage. The second on biodiversity, because it's important to deal with the impact on ecosystem that these plants create on our territory. And the third one is related to climate change. We have also another group that will last more than the other three, and that is related to the past and current European research project, and the chair of this working group is Emanuele Quaranta, that is one of the next speakers. So we call for your participation in these working groups, so you can take a picture of these slides, okay, you all, because you have to write to the Secretariat of the ETIP Hydropower and put in the email either ETIP working group and the name of the working group you are interested in, okay? Okay, I just see only two pictures, but we will provide you the presentation. So we can go back to the climate change. You have just seen this picture with, during the presentation of Michel Lino. And well, it's a very boring picture, because you can see that the observation matches very well with the worst scenario. So we can say that global warming is accelerating, and the human activities are impacting some climate extremes across the globe. But if we look at the most recent projection of the International Panel on Climate Change, we could see that in the worst scenarios, we are going to overcome the 4 degrees centigrade. And here I listed some of the criticality that we will have in Europe. For example, we will have an increase in cost in inland flooding, and this will impact on people, environment, and economies and infrastructure. We have an increase in temperature and heat extremes, impact on the ecosystem with the disruption of the ecosystem and the changes, important changes in the hydrology. We will face water scarcity and also water security in most small islands. And this will create also impact on food security and due to combined heat and dry condition situation like extreme weather events. It's important to look at the differences in the temperature changes in precipitation, considering different emission scenarios. And you can, as you can see, there are, it depends on the region, the differences depends on the region, season, and variable we are considering. So we can see that across warming levels, the land areas warm more than the ocean areas. We will have warmer areas in the Arctic and then in Antarctica. Regarding the precipitation, the future projections are more uncertain, but we can see that we will increase in they will increase in high latitudes, the tropics, the monsoon regions, and the dry is expected also in the Mediterranean areas. So what we can say that we can see that floods and droughts are currently among the most devastating water-related disasters. We can see that each year, also in our country. And it's also interesting to compare the climate average towards the climate extremes. If you look at the temperature, you can see that the changes, the surface temperature extremes closely follow the corresponding changes of the streams. But we are facing warm extreme. The warm extreme will be more frequent than the cold one, so because of the global warming. Regarding the precipitation, the extremes are not so close with the average changes, as you can see. So maybe we can have that in some area, the average precipitation will face a dry condition, but in the extreme we will have a worsening situation. It's important to notice that also the hydropower production is impacted by this weather condition. And I reported here a picture of the hydropower production in Italy related to the last years. And as you can see, during the 2022, when we have a very important water crisis in Italy, but also in the other European countries, we had the all-time low production in Italy that cover only 10.7% of the total production, okay? The next year, in 2023, we were more or less in the same situation at the beginning of the year. But then, during the spring period, there were several rains that allowed hydropower to better the situation so that they could increase the production. But anyway, these heavy rains did not compensate the criticalities because we have snowfall at an all-time low and the water balance is still high in high deficit. And we are going to talk more about these impacts on long-term hydropower production in the afternoon, but in Italian, sorry. But it is just this picture would like to show you how the hydropower production will be impacted on long term due to global warming. So as you can see, we have the production of hydropower defined each 5 years, starting from 2015 up to 2100s. And you can see that the climate model provides similar quantitative trends for each 5 years period, but the production is really very strongly impacted by the emission scenarios, as you can see. Start moving from this to the worst scenario. And in the worst scenario, we should expect a reduction of the hydropower production up to 35% in the summer months. So we need to better our position, to better the operation of our plants. It's important to couple together the climate model with the hydrological ones and with the river basin models. And to do that, we should make reference to the most recent projection of the International Commission on Climate Change. So I show you the shared socio-economic pathways that use the couple model intercomparison project of phase 6. And they consider different effective radiative sourcing. We have to consider the opportunity to use the artificial intelligence techniques in hydrology and in water resources management. And it's also important to create a software framework, let's say, based on advanced repositories and semantic approach, because semantic approach allow you to couple different data that are used in different fields, climate change, hydrology, and whatever. And we also need to have at disposal vulnerability curves, because with this one, we could quantify the damages, okay? And we could also create a we could also prioritize our action. So these are only suggestions, but I think we should go toward this system. And I also consider sedimentation, because sedimentation will be impacted by global warming as well. I reported some data related to Italy, the total reservoir capacity that is provided by more than 500 large dams. And the estimation is that we are losing almost 30% of our storage capacity due to sedimentation. And this is the actual situation, okay? If you are going to look at what will happen in the future, well, in RSA, we developed this model, the climate rainfall hydrogeological modeling experiment, that is able to show that flood event clearly leads to the largest sedimentation increase. So we are climate change will exacerbate, will create, will increase the frequencies of the floods events, and so consequently the problem of sedimentation. And there is also the solid production will increase in the Alps, where the hydrological cycle will change from pluvio-glacial to pluvio-nival regime. So it's time to change, and we have also not to consider the climate change and consider the impacts of climate change, but we must be able to turn climate change into opportunities. So we have to consider in the next year the water, climate, energy, and food nexus. We have to think about that, and because it's important to streamline the water-related policies, okay? And we will see some example on that. The animation was not good. So as I told you, there is a new interest in hydropower because of the balancing services that these plants can provide to the power network, and because the production of hydropower is not only clean but flexible, and we have also the possibility to have a storage capacity that it's very important to shift generation over time. I have some TSO data of the French TSO just to understand this capability of hydropower. If you look at this picture, you can see the mix of production in France, and you can see here that before the solar plants enter into operation, we need the flexibility of hydropower. Look at this one. So in only 2.5 hours, hydropower could involve 11 gigawatts of power to provide the energy, to satisfy the energy demands. And when the photovoltaics enter into production, it can lower down in 3 hours and 5 the production. And the same happens at the end of the day when the solar go out of operation. So the hydropower plants are the only plants that can provide this flexibility, are very effective in providing this flexibility. And regarding what you say, Michel, that it's important to increase our storage capacity. Yes, there are some examples in the Swiss energy strategies because they are looking at some opportunities. For example, this one is related to the Trif Glacier in the Central Alps of the Bernese Overland. As you can see, starting from the left picture to the right, in the middle of the last century, there was a glacier there. But now, at the beginning of this century, we can see that the glaciers ended clearly above the lake. So the idea is to create a dam at the top of this glacier to storage this water, not to waste that. And so this is a photomontage of the future 180 dam. And the hydro reservoir capacity will be of 85 million cubic meter with a generation capacity of 135 gigawatt hours. So this is an opportunity, but we have also to consider that there are some environmental aspects that we should tackle with to avoid negative impacts, okay? Most of all related to the transport of sediments. And this is another opportunity to increase storage capacity. So the heightening of existing dams, these are 2 examples of in Switzerland. They were heightened at the end of the last century. And they had estimated that the heightening of 19 existing dams from 5% to 20% of the height will contribute very effectively to the Swiss Energy Strategy 2050, because, for example, the production could increase in the summer months from about 1.7 to 2.8 terawatt hour per year. And also you can see the additional volume is quite important, 700 cubic kilometers. So these are projects that have been already realized. And this could be also an opportunity for Italy. And my last slide, I will provide some example of hybridization because, as you told Michel, this is an opportunity, the hybridization of hydropower plants with other technologies. I just show you some example. This one is related to floating solar PV on dam reservoirs. This is a demonstrator in France at the EDF Lazé reservoir. So you have 27 gigawatt hour per year with this solution. Yesterday, you have seen some interesting solution provided by the X-Flex Hydro project, European project, so you can improve the flexibility of your plants installing batteries. You can make reference to the hydraulic short circuit, or you can use a variable speed reversible pump turbine to better the flexibility. We have also this solution with the virtual power plants. This is another example related to EDF, where hydro, photovoltaic farms, wind farms are managed with batteries. This is a project called SoFlex HI. And finally, we have also a possible combination with the hydrogen generation and production. that it's called hydro square solution. So that's all. These are all some opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Antonella. Thank you. So let's give the floor to Emanuele Quaranta. Emanuele Quaranta is a scientific officer at the Joint Research Center of the European Commission. After his graduation in Turin, he won the prize for the best Italian thesis for the PhD. His activity in the European Commission is mainly related to the nexus between water, energy, food, and ecosystem. Okay, it's not an easy task. He coordinates the research on sustainable hydropower potential in Europe, and he's the advisory for European projects founded by European Commission related to hydropower. I give him the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me, also for yesterday. Okay, this is my presentation. Okay. First of all, I would like to give just 1 minute of what we do. I already said this yesterday, but maybe not all of you were present. And I don't know, many of you know that the European Commission has a scientific center in order to support the policy making process. In particular, I am in the water and ocean unit where we do scientific support and scientific assessment in the water field, supporting the development of several strategies and directives, like the flood directive, the renewable energy directive, and different strategies. Practically, we perform calculation in order to find data and number in order to support the policy-making process. Here is a brief summary of what I will talk today. So I will talk in general on water reservoirs and trying to give you some numbers in different topics. So complementing what has already been said in the presentation before mine. Okay, first of all, water reservoir, there are different kinds of water reservoirs. There are water reservoirs in river, but there are also stand-alone reservoirs that are not connected to rivers, are also artificial reservoirs or artificial tanks, so cisterne, they are water reservoirs, but the largest water reservoir is the ground, is the soil. Today, I will focus on the first kind, the classical water reservoir with a dam. And I will focus on large reservoirs associated to large dams, according to the definition of ICOLD. And I thanks a lot ICOLD also, especially for providing the important database on dams that is very useful. And we know that it's not easy to collect data at a large scale and in the world, because sometimes there are data gap. There are data providers that provide data with different formats, different units, so it's not an easy task, and we know this. Reservoirs can be of different use, hydropower, irrigation, water supply, and this is a benefit of water reservoirs because they can be used for different purposes. Here is a situation at the European scale. As you can see on picture A, most of reservoirs are for single use, more or less 70% in the European Union, and 30% are for multi-purpose. But these 30% multi-purpose store more or less 1/2 of total volume, so they are larger. If we look at figure C, we see that the most, more or less 1/2 of single-use reservoirs are for hydropower. While if we look at multi-purpose reservoirs, most of them have as first use water supply. Generally, in the European Union, 1/2 of large dams are equipped also for hydropower. One of the important topics already mentioned is energy storage. Energy storage can be defined in different ways. In this context, we defined energy storage in gigawatt hours, the energy stored, so the energy that can be generated in one complete emptying cycle. And here we found some problems in data collection because different sources give different value. Most of them don't define how they calculate them. So we are working on this issue in order to find which are the which is the best estimate, also connecting all different sources. And these are some preliminary results that will be published soon. I will not explain the method because it will be very boring. We have quantified, first of all, a theoretical energy storage in pumped hydro and also in all reservoirs, which is simply the volume multiplied the head. Then we apply some correction coefficient to take into account efficiency, that not all the volume can be used. And we have compared these estimates with official data sources like the International Hydropower Association and ENSO-E. And we found, for example, that our technical estimation for pump storage, which is 2 terawatt-hour, is bigger than the one of the International Hydropower Association, which is good because we are overestimating, no? Because the reality, you know, is more difficult than the theory. Instead, when we consider all hydropower reservoirs, our estimation is more cautelative, is below the one from ENSO-E. But why? Because we discovered that ENSO-E also include for some reservoir the cascade effect, so that one reservoir can also store the water and then release the water of the upstream reservoirs. But I can share with you then the full paper with more detail. Now it's not very easy not to explain this data in a few minutes, but just to give you also an idea of what we are doing. Reservoirs are also useful for flood control and drought mitigation. There are some estimates that the additional benefit of reservoirs, of hydropower reservoirs for other use, range between 10 billion to 20 billion per year, also neglecting the flood benefit. And the International Hydropower Association estimates that water storage in hydropower reservoirs allow also to give a lot of economic benefit to mitigate droughts, more or less at the global scale of 100 billion every year. So allow to save this money compensating the drought. But reservoirs also can generate some impacts, like, for example, the reallocation of people. This is not really a problem in the European Union, but please consider also, for example, in China, the Three Gorge Dam that reallocated more or less 2 million people. In Europe, this is not so common. Maybe in the past, yes, but now don't want to discuss all the data. But always from the ICOLD database, we found that all the dams have reallocated more or less 60,000 people, okay, which is a good number, but not so high if compared with other contexts. Now have a look at the fragmentation of rivers in the European Union. We have identified that in European rivers, there are more or less 400,000 barriers. So 450,000, which is a lot. But only 4,000 dams. So less than 1% are large dams. And if we consider that more or less in the European Union there are 25,000 hydropower plants, we can say that less than 10% of barriers are for hydropower. So even if we consider as some scientific studies say to dam removal, to remove all the hydropower plants, this will not solve the problem of river fragmentation, because there will be the rest of 90% of barriers still there. One of the problems of reservoir is sedimentation, already explained it before. More or less every year in the European context, 1% of the storage volume is filled with sediments, and removing these sediments, according to an estimate, costs between 2 to 8 billion euro annually at the European scale. But one other, instead, benefit of barriers and reservoirs is they trap plastics. In the trash rack, there is a lot of plastics that hence is removed from the rivers. This is a cost probably for the operator, but is a great advantage, an important benefit for the environment. This is the Three Gorge Dam in China, and all the plastics that remain trapped in the reservoirs that, thanks to the operation of reservoir, is removed. So reservoirs don't only trap sediments, but also wastes and plastics. Another aspect of reservoirs is the greenhouse gas emission due to the decomposition of organic matter. And if we look at this at the global scale, we can see in blue, the reservoir where this greenhouse gas emissions is very low. In red, where this is very high. We can see that in the European context, most of dams are blue, so they are not so responsible of greenhouse gas emission from the decomposition of organic matter, except some local cases in red, in Spain, in Italy, for example, where locally there could be some release of greenhouse gas emission. But we are not to forget that hydropower is a clean and renewable energy technology. So even if a reservoir can emit some greenhouse gas emission, on the other side is renewable energy technology that does not consume fuel. Another aspect to consider in reservoirs is the evaporation, so the water loss due to the evaporation, but this can be compensated by floating photovoltaics that can reduce water evaporation. And if we assume in most of reservoirs to cover them with floating photovoltaics, we can save a lot of water by evaporation, and we can also produce additional energy from floating photovoltaics. Yes, this was my last slide, already presented yesterday. Every year we publish a report on the hydropower, pump storage hydropower in the European Union. In a few weeks it will be published. I will leave some leaflet here if you want to take, and you can read it and give me your comments. I would like also to say this, my last comment. I think it's important to collaborate between public institutions, governmental institutions, companies, and research center, especially for data collection. Without data, also governmental institutions cannot do optimal policies. I have a long-standing collaboration with companies, especially manufacturers. Yesterday, I showed to you some assessment we performed on the European scale, for example, which are the benefits of refurbishment, which are the benefits of digital solution, how much more energy we can get if we modernize the non-powered barriers. And I have also to thank companies that have been willing to share their data, to share, for example, the cost of some technologies or the benefit of some technologies. And most of these companies are also present here. So thank you for sharing the data. This is very important. And I will also now leave you with also this other example, which is less positive, but it's not a complaint, just to stimulate the collaboration. Currently, we have a hydrological model called the LIS flood, where we simulate the hydrology at the European scale. And in this hydrological model, there are also reservoirs. The problem is how we can model these reservoirs. The only way to model well these reservoirs is to have data of real reservoirs, so which is the inflow, the outflow, the stored volume, so that we can validate our model, we can improve our model. So we are looking for time series at daily time step of this kind of data. We try to contact several companies, operators, but do you know how many time series we were able to collect? 0. So I say, okay, we will continue to model reservoirs in our hydrological model, doing the best that we can do, but without the real data, how is possible? So it's difficult, no? We do our best, but if we don't have real data, how is possible to optimize this? So sometimes I hear a statement that say, the Water Framework Directive, so the Directive Acque, should be revised, no? Because the Italian context is different and so on. Yes, we agree, we want to improve it, but to improve it, we need data, no? In order to base our policies. But if we don't get this data, no? Don't complain after, no? We ask data to improve, and if company don't provide data, why then complain, no? So this should stimulate collaboration, no? We use data not to control, no, if the company is releasing the environmental flow, no? No, it's just for scientific purposes to validate our model and to improve the policies, to improve the Water Framework Directive. And this should so stimulate more collaboration, data sharing. We know all the efforts that companies do in collecting data, maybe in organize them to send to us. So we know, and we know also that this not generate an immediate economic benefit to a company. No? If a company gives us the data, the day after, this company does not have more money. No? So sometimes companies say, no, I don't want to lose time in this. But instead, it's very important, because in this way, we can also, for example, find and discover which are the gaps, which are the challenges, and finance, for example, research project on this. But if we don't have the data, I don't see other better solution. No? So it is not a complaint, but just to stimulate, no, and to make you awareness of also the difficulties and of the importance of improving collaboration. Thank you for your attention.
thank you, Emanuele, for this contribution. If you can accept a comment from a person that has more experience, or say more years than yours, if you look data, if you ask data, nobody gives you data. Probably it's better to try to involve them to participate to the work you are doing, because otherwise I think nobody will give you data.
Yeah, thank you for the comment. Indeed, when we ask data, we sometimes also try to involve these companies in discussions. For example, I remember the companies, the manufacturer will provide data. For example, we involve them as co-author of some works or in some discussion. And so obviously we also involve, obviously we don't just, we know the effort that they do. So we try to give some also benefit to them by involving them as a co-author in scientific terms. But I know that we cannot, for example, pay a company, yeah. But thank you.
Thank you. So let's give now the floor to Dr. Di Simine. Dr. Di Simine is a chemist and biotechnologist. He's the responsible of soil policies of Legambiente, very well-known environmental organization in Italy. And his main interest is about the sustainable use of soil and mountains areas. He is the responsible of soil policies of Legambiente. The sustainability of the agri-food system and the agroecological transition linked to climate mitigation and adaptation is another focus of his activities. And we are proud to host here a contribution from an environmental organization that has a sensitivity different from many others components of this workshop. Thank you, Mr. Di Simine.
Thank you for your invitation. Well, Legambiente is the main environmental organization in Italy, very rooted in the territory, with a lot of local groups active, and so is a stakeholder that the hydroelectric operators probably meet frequently in Italian territory. We are really interested in hydroelectric issues because we think that in the energy transition we need an accumulation capacity that cannot be covered by other accumulation systems such as batteries and other. So the potential of hydroelectric in accumulation and in stabilization of the electric system for us is a priority issue for our action and for our attention. I will focus on a part of Italy that is the north of Italy, and in particular the northwest of Italy, because this is a part of Italy that is very strategic for the topics of water resource, exploitation of its high hydroelectric potential, and other uses, in particular agricultural. Well, as you know, probably there are two Italies, continental and the peninsular, that are very different in their feature with regard to water stress and water availability. Well, in this map, you can see that in 2021, for north of Italy, the forecasts were not particularly worrying. Well, then in 2022, the projection changed completely because there was the more severe drought in this area. So pay attention when you use the models, because often they fail in facing the reality. But the importance of the northwest of Italy, in particular of the Po Basin is relevant because in this area there is almost half of Italian irrigated area, and almost 70% of the whole water consumption for agriculture. So you can understand how important is the water resource for the agri and food system, for the Italian agri-food system, and so for the competition in use of water by different users. And the reason for this huge amount of water used in agriculture is the availability of water from the Alpine range, from the Alpine water tower, we can say, and the relevant amount of water stocks in hydroelectric reservoirs, 1 billion of cubic meters. That is the currently used amount of water, because the nominal capacity of the dams of the reservoirs in this area is much higher than 1 billion of cubic meters. And then there is a second important reservoir that is the crown of pre-alpine lakes that are regulated for for agricultural uses, that can stock up to 1.2 billions of cubic meters. So it is a very relevant amount of the wall of water, of rains and the snowfall in the area, and that is very difficult to significantly increase the storage volumes by building new dams, and it is instead very easy to lose capacity of this system by sediment accumulation, by safety issues for these dams. So the priority in this part of Italy, but probably in the bigger part of Italy, is in investments in maintenance and safety and renovation of the infrastructures. Also with attention to a technological upgrading. Considering that in the northwest of Italy, the average age of the dams is the higher of Italy. In the regions of the northwest, the average age of dams is more than 80 years, with respect to average data for Italy that is 68 years. So a very old heritage of infrastructures that probably need a technological and sometimes also structural renovation. And what is worrying for us as citizens before of an environmental organization is that, especially in the northwest, a big part of them operate without a concession. The concessions are expired in some cases from 15 years. So this means that for 15 years, many dams in Lombardy, Piedmont are managed without a contract between the private operator and the government, the governmental institution. This is worrying because, this is a system problem for governmental, regional institution, but also for enterprises, private enterprise. As a citizen, I cannot understand how can an entrepreneur operating in the sector of the hydroelectric power generation can think to operate for more than a decade without a contract with the public with the public sector how can he manage investment? How can he plan refurbishment or renovation of the infrastructure? So this is a big topic that is presently not solved by Italian and regional institutions. And within 2029, in the northwest of Italy, the 79% of the total of big dams will be without a concession. So this is very worrying problem. Well, when we consider the water resource, we have also to consider that the bigger reservoir in the Alps are not liquid water reservoir, because the snow accumulation is probably the more important seasonal accumulation system, and this huge reservoir in the northwest of Italy, it represents something like up to 4 billions of cubic meters of water in solid phase. This is probably the more important reservoir for agriculture, because the availability of water from melting of snow is from April to July. But we have a problem with July, because July is the data before the climate change. Now, in many years, the melting of water from the snow accumulation finish in June, and this means that from in July we have a big problem to provide water to agriculture in the plan of the Po Basin, and we have also a second, maybe a relevant problem, that is the change of climate regime. So we had 4 billions of water accumulated in the form of snow in 2021 and 2024, but in 2022 and 2023 we had less than 1 billion of cubic meter of water in the form of snow. So this is probably one of the more worrying problems for the agri-food system of northern Italy, the availability of water during the summertime, because of the advance in the melting season and the increase of loss of water by evapotranspiration that decrease the balance of useful water for the agriculture. Well, and then there is the fourth water reservoir, that is the glaciers. Well, we know this is an emergency resource for agriculture, because it's melting occurs normally in August, when so it provides water in years in which water is very scarce. But we know that this is the resource that is on the way of the extinction. So the criticality of the water availability in northwest of Italy is not criticality linked to the amount of water availability that is not substantially changed as an average data, but for the availability in the summer season. And so the management of the artificial reservoir is fundamental to compensate this deficit of water in the summer season. Then we have also to change the way in which we manage water for agriculture, increasing because we must probably change the way in which we cultivate, and also to change what we cultivate, because the more important culture of the basin is probably maize. That is a very hydroexigent culture that require water in August. But we can also make a value from the use of other water reservoir. The more important is probably the aquifer. The aquifer that is a slow water reserve, a slow release water reserve that we can manage by changing the regime of the release of waters from the mountains and to use water also in the winter season for the flooding of the field. This is something that was made traditionally in the agriculture of the north of Italy that was abandoned in the last decades, but it's something that we must rethink. The winter flooding of the fields, of the meadows, the flooded meadows, marchite is the name in Italian of this way of cultivating the grasses. And also the circulation of water in the winter season is a way, is not a loss of water, but is the way to provide the aquifer as that is the larger water reservoir of the alluvial plain. So what is changing in the perspective of climate change scenario is the seasonal use of water. The seasonal use by the agriculture, that is the main user of water, and therefore also by the regulators of the flow of water from the mountains to the plains. So, an increased need in winter for support the aquifer in its capability, and the management during the summer to provide water in the season that is that will be more and more critical for agriculture. So these are and with this. Thank for your attention and I will do this.
Thank you, Dr. Di Simine, for your contribution. Now it's a pleasure to give the floor to Sera Lazaridou. Sera is a civil engineer graduated in Athens, Grecia, with a Master of Science in Soil Mechanics at the Imperial College. His 20 years of experience, professional experience, were mainly focused on water resources management and design of dams. He is the Secretary General of the Greek Committee, and I underline that he's the President of the European Club of ICOLD. ICOLD is the organization I told you before, and Michel Lino explained you exactly what ICOLD is. It's a world scale, but if you think it's rather evident that some topics that are of strict interest in Europe may be not so interesting in Africa, in Asia, or America. To favor the debate of the most interesting topics in each area, the clubs have been formed. ICOLD has 4 clubs according to the regional clustering: American Club, African Club, Asia Club, and European Club. Sera is now the chairman of this European Club, and it's our pleasure to give her the floor. Thank you, Sera.
Thank you, Giovanni. Thank you for the invitation. It's always my pleasure to be here in Italy. Today, the presentation is entitled ICOLD European Club Strategies and Actions for Public Awareness on Dam Benefits. Dam Day in Europe, we're going to focus on this initiative. Initially, I will make a very brief introduction on the objectives and the active working groups of the ICOLD European Club, and then I will focus on the initiatives which are related to public awareness, and especially Dam Day Reservoirs for Europe initiative. So what is the ICOLD European Club? Giovanni just said a few words about it. It consists of 27 European ICOLD member countries. Its main objectives, according to its constitution, which was the Constitution of 1995, is to encourage the formation of European working groups and European symposia, to encourage the comparison and exchange of information between the European countries, to provide expert technical advice in relation to dam and reservoir safety, where this is requested, to participate in public relations activities to explain the social, environmental, and economic benefits of dams, to promote cooperation in professional training of young professionals. Currently, there are 11 active European working groups and task forces, and these mainly aim to interact and collaborate with the ICOLD technical committees, to organize workshops and seminars and symposiums, and focus in emerging issues for the EU member countries. And as you can see here, we have highlighted some of these task forces. These are mainly task forces which are initiatives made by the Italian Committee on Large Dams within the European Club, and they relate to public awareness strategies. And I will also highlight ETIP Hydropower because, as you have heard today and yesterday as well, ETIP Hydropower has introduced social acceptability within its strategic industry roadmap. Now, we will focus into the last initiative within the European Club. This is the Dam Day Reservoirs for Europe initiative. This is the logo that was designed by Antonella for the 2024 celebrations. And we will initially introduce some similar actions, well-established similar actions. So these are on a national, European, or international concept. They are day event celebrations. They are related to water, dams, and hydropower. We can see that we have the Brussels Hydropower Day of ETIP Hydropower. This year is going to be the third year. It's on the 8th of April, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. Then, of course, we have the Global Hydropower Day, which is introduced by the International Hydropower Association. Some national events by the US, but they were widespread. The National Hydropower Day and the National Dam Safety Awareness Day. And of course, we have the World Water Day from the United Nations. So we also aim to be widespread and well-established as these also initiatives. There are also some similar actions which aim to be against dams. So we can see here that on the 4th of March, there is an International Day of Actions for Rivers. But then why establish a celebration day dedicated to dams and reservoirs? Because, as Giovanni said this morning, and we heard it over and over, we have a communication gap. We have made mistakes. We were not able to communicate the benefits of dams over the years, and that ended up over the dam debate, that there is the widespread dam debate, that there is a lot of misinformation being circulated. And we believe that it is our responsibility, and it's the time to provide credible information on the benefits of dams, and today with credible and responsible data. Emmanuel gave us a lot of information today on credible data that we could provide to the public. And this will all help to debunk with evidence the myths that are circulating for hydropower, and not only for hydropower dams, but for all dams, powered or non-powered. So here we can see some similar actions by ETIP and the International Hydropower Association. And this is not only the case. It's very important to engage the professionals within dam engineering. And that means that we want to excel their professional skills. And this is a very good opportunity. Celebrations will be a very good opportunity for younger professionals and seniors as well. And what I find of most importance is to provide credible and responsible information to the younger generations, the generations that are going to be the decision makers and the citizens of tomorrow. So let's see the establishment timeline. The proposition was made by the Italian Committee on Large Dams. The Italian committee presented the concept and the structure of the Dam Day, and then the ICOLD European Club centrally tried to engage all the national committees. It established the action. It created a task force, which is of course led by the Italian Committee on Large Dams, and it presented coordination processes. We selected the day, the 29th of May, for the inaugural celebrations in 2024. We created a declaration and a news release. They are mentioning that Dam Day, Reservoirs for Europe, is an annual celebrations day declared by the ICOLD European Club and being held in May, aiming to advocate, recognize distribution, and spread knowledge on the role of dams and their reservoirs in an economic, social, and environmental context. Events on a national basis are coordinated by the ICOLD European National Committees. EuroCold collaborates to synchronize and engage the national committees, disseminate the principal objectives, and of course organize and promote events. So how can we expand the communication channels, and what is the structural events that you can organize, someone can organize within this concept? Of course, technical visits and study days at dam sites to mobilize and trigger professionals and young professionals and university students' interest. Visits and excursions at dams, mainly for schools and the public at large. Seminars, workshops on dam engineering for professionals. Sports and activities, cultural activities at dams and their reservoirs. Promotion on social media and the press. And the events take place in parallel across all Europe, a short period before and after a predefined date. Excuse me. So now we will introduce the results of the inaugural celebrations in May 2024 in numbers. The event was celebrated for the first time on May 29th. We had the support of many national committees of EuroCold, 18 EuroCold member countries, and Cyprus. In total, 19 countries. They supported the inaugural celebrations. When we are talking about support, we are talking about the organization with physical attendance, online support. A lot of national committees provided information to create a slideshow video. 19 seminars, workshops, webinars, and symposiums were organized across Europe. 34 on-site visits for professionals, universities, schools, and the general public. And other actions. So there was a podcast, distribution of leaflets at schools, various happenings at universities, activity games for kids, the online campaigns, and also the video that I have already mentioned. 12 of the national committees conducted events with physical attendance. They collaborated with 66 partners for totally 58 events around Europe. These 66 partners were mainly dam owners, operators, universities, schools, associations and committees, authorities, and there was also collaboration with consultants. And there was a distribution of approximately 250 copies of material related to the events, 1,000 leaflets for kids, 11 press releases in national newspapers and media. Now, we estimate that the participation was in total around 3,404 professionals and students. And let's see the seniority of the participants. Approximately 7% is school students. 22% university students, 23% young professionals, and 48% senior professionals and the public. So it's 50-50. 50 senior professionals in the public, 50% younger people, from the elementary school age to up to the university. Some of pictures around Europe from Italy, Romania, Poland, Portugal. You can see that the majority of the events are site visits and seminars. Sometimes they were combined. Of course, the Italian participation was great, more than 2,300 participants. There was also a webinar by the Spanish Committee on Large Dams for Bean. And in Greece, we participated in a marathon at the Marathon Dam, and we distributed leaflets for kids. The United Kingdom conducted a very interesting online campaign throughout the week. Now, the Italian committee also created a very specialized website. That is a very good idea. If you want to distribute and disseminate the information and engage people, there was a map, an events map, and also an event database. So everybody could go in and see all the information according to their proximity or the kind of event that they would like to attend. And there was also distribution of the news in the press. Okay, so this is what was happening in the real life, let's say, with the physical attendance. Let's see now how we will try to disseminate all the information, engage people online, which is very, very important in nowadays. So in EuroCold, we mainly have a LinkedIn page, but the national committees also have other social media. Initially, we issued and we promoted a news release. Then we tried to synchronize the LinkedIn pages of the national committees with EuroCold, asking for everyone to put a hashtag at ICOLD European Club whenever they were posting something that was related with the events. We collected the information from the European national committees in order to create a slideshow video. We made 6 posts during the week, focusing on providing the dam benefits. And we kept on resharing all the posts and all the information from the national committees. In total, EuroCold, the national committees, had approximately 160 posts. We received approximately 4,400 likes. All this led to many more reposts. Of course, it's not easy to follow all this dissemination. This is a central post, the first post. We received a lot of likes in these posts. And this ended up in tripling, in raising our followers within less than 10 days. And this is very important because next year in 2025, we will have a wider audience and wider participation. Today, our LinkedIn page has more than 1,000 followers. And where are they coming from? More than 40 countries worldwide. Of course, most of people are from Europe, but there are also a lot of people from the Americas, Asia Pacific, and Africa. And the campaign was also supported by ICOLD, of course, social media, the International Water Power and Dam Construction, ETIP Hydropower, many dam owners and operators. So we could just see out of the blue, I would say, many companies resharing and creating their own posts for the day, and also consulting companies around Europe. Now let's see the seniority of the followers. We can see that young people entry, it's 45%, and seniors 30%. In total, it's 60-40. That means that more younger people are more engaged online. This is something that we would, of course, expect. They become from the civil and engineering industry also. This is what we also expect because we are talking about LinkedIn. This is official social media. But we can see that we have positive response from our industry. And this will, since we will engage our industry, it will be more easy to widespread the messages to the other sectors and the public at large. Simply, this is something that we would expect, and it was very desirable for a first year. Now, the core document of the Dams and Reservoirs initiative is the manifesto. It was issued in 2016 during the Italian presidency in ICOLD. It has identified many of the emerging issues in Europe that are related to climate change, to the energy transition, to increasing water demands. And currently it's been updated from the Italian Committee on Large Dams. So we are going to have a new version in a few months' time. It's a very, very updated and a very nice version, I would say. It provides a lot of information and credible data. Of course, the national committees, except from the core document, they can also create their own documentation. This is just an example from the Greek Committee on Large Dams. We created a leaflet for the kids. I have mentioned that already. I don't know if I can play here, but no, it's not possible. No, it's okay. It's fine. It's Greek anyway. It's in Greek, so. And we keep on collecting information from the national committees, trying to prioritize future actions which are in relation to public awareness. So we have created the task force for public awareness strategies with Guido Matta and Antonella Frigerio a questionnaire, and we have distributed it to the national committees. You can find a lot of this information in our website, our LinkedIn page. Everybody is welcome to follow our LinkedIn page. And we also have issued an annual newsletter, which we will also distribute with a new year. It will contain a lot of information related to the 2024 celebrations and also information on the upcoming 2025 celebrations. And I just wanted to also mention that the next, one of the next European working groups actions is on penstocks and pressure shafts in Graz on the 21st of November. Antonella Frigerio is the chair of the European working group. Thank you. We encourage organizations to support and participate next year in 2025 to widespread and establish a successful institution. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, for your contribution. Let's give the floor now to Guido Mazzà. I think it is well known to most of you, but however, he spent his professional career first in the Hydraulic and Structural Research Center of Enel, and then in the RSE, the public company, a public research company for the dedicated to the safety and efficiency of the electrical system. He has been president of the European Club in the past and is now president of the Italian Committee on Large Dam. I give him the floor. Thank you, Guido.
It's okay now? Okay. Well, thank you for the presentation. Thank you also to Sarah for the very, very large overview she has presented related to the large amount of activities that has been carried out by the European Club, the European ICOLD. And I will focus on a topic that has been already presented in the past, in the frame of the activities that ITCOLD has carried out in the last, let's say, 10 years or so, related to the attempt that we have done as ITCOLD to facilitate the dialogue between the different positions of the owners from one side and of stakeholders at large from the other side. So in my speech, I will talk about the proactivity of the owners, and I will spend more words related to the point of view of stakeholder that is so important, in our opinion, to facilitate this dialogue. Well, as I said, the survey that we have carried out was devoted to assess what is the proactivity of the donors in the most objective possible way. And from the other side, as I said, we wanted to know more about the perception of stakeholders related to the social, economic, environmental point of view of people. So Enel established many years ago a working group. Here you can see all the people who participated to this activity, a very large number of people. And as this activity, as many activities in general, do not come, let's say, out of the blue. They come because there are a trigger, let's say a trigger activity that start the idea to focus or to pay attention to a specific item. So in this slide, you can see over there, this is Nelson Mandela, by the way, and this is Mr. Kader Hasmal. He was the Ministry of Forestry of the first government of Nelson Mandela. It's about more than 20 years ago. And it is important to say that in those years, it was presented a paper. It was a position paper related to dams and development. It was a new framework for decision making. It was important because it was the first attempt carried out to make a critical appraisal about the relation between dams and territory. And from one side, I have to say that the report was a very valuable report, but it was more devoted to some areas of the planet, some areas that were in difficulty, or were those countries in which new dams were built. So our idea was that it was not mainly related to the situation in more advanced countries in which dams represented, a real situation. So for this reason, we decided to go deeper into details to the conclusions of the WCD report and to analyze more in detail the positive and negative, of course, according to our point of view, the conclusion of this document, this important document anyway. And for this reason, as ITCOLD, I have to come back, let's say, more than 10 years or so, perhaps more. And the first step was to analyze some best practices that were present in Italy. Here, we were focused on 3 areas in the north, center, and south. And the 3 cases that the team, the working group analyzed were referred to the San Giacomo Dam, that is an important dam located in Lombardia. The second one was the Reservoirs Dam. And the third case was the Piano della Rocca Dam located in the south of Italy, or in Campania. But of course, these were best practices in which the relationship between the owners from one side and the population at large from the other side were very positive. Even if, in particular in Lombardia, that was a region in which let's say the industrialization process in Italy started. The first years were not so easy, but after many years it was possible to establish a good relation between the territory and the owners. The other 2 cases are more recent, but as I said, these are represent best practices. So what we wanted to do is to analyze what was, what is the situation in all around Italy. And so we carried out a survey in order to understand from one side what was the point of view or the situation of the initiatives of the owners to try to facilitate this dialogue. And this was done making reference to a questionnaire. which main aim were related to the environmental management from one side, the promotion of the local development communication, and forms of compensation. Form of compensation that could be different in terms of monetary transfer, for instance, or water resources release, or other forms of compensation. I have to say that statistically speaking, for sure, the number of participants to this inquiry was very large because 56 dams and 17 owners were engaged in this inquiry. The number of dams represent, as you know, more than 10% of the large dams in Italy. So, statistically speaking, is a very, very good, sample. And well, I have no time to go into details talking about which are the companies who participated. You can find all this information in the papers and the slides that would be, I think, distributed. And so you can see the hydropower dam owners, the water supply dam owners, the irrigation devoted to dams, and so on. So what is more interesting, even if I will not have the time to go into details, but we have tried to summarize the proactivity of the owners, making reference to the environmental management first. And so you can see all the areas that has been taken into account. So the fauna protection, the dredging. Of course, all these activities are out of those activities requested by law. These are voluntary actions that are carried out, or that have been carried out by the owners. This is important to be kept in mind. So all the things that are requested by law are out of this inquiry. So I was saying that fauna protection, dredging, reduction of landscape impact, the minimization of secondary risk, as well as outflows, are the topics that has been taken into account. It is interesting to see two things, I think. First of all, how the owners are engaged in each of these initiatives. And the other aspect is the difference, if there are differences, between the position of the two different kinds of dam owners, hydropower, and the other dam owners devoted to irrigation of drinkable water. So there are differences, there are similarities. It depends according to the situation that, of course, are connected in some way to the different objective of the activity of these different kind of the owners from one side, but also differences related to the geographical position of the dams located along the peninsula. So, another aspect relevant to the environmental management is represented here on this slide. Here the differences are, let's say, more important. Well, the topics that has been considered are reservoir management, the weather forecast, the water quality control, the certification, the environmental promotion. So you can notice that there are big differences because the dam owners related to water supply moves in this area, basically. On the contrary, the dam owners devoted to production of electricity moves in this area. This is interesting, and some consideration can be done, of course, making reference to these results. Another aspect is related to the promotion of local development. As you can see here, there is a full overlapping of the two different kind of dam owners. So the overlap is almost complete. The topics that has been taken into account are related to the cultural and landscape activities, sport activities as well, the promotion of tourism, the recreational activities, and information communication. It is important to notice, not only, as I said, the full overlapping of the actions of the two different kind of dam owners, but also that, well, let's say that more or less the level of engagement, let's say, of the owners is Yes, medium or medium high. In some cases, very, very high. This is a dam site. That is a very important point, I think, to be kept in mind. And it has connections also with what Sarah Lazaridou presented before. Now, continuing, another aspect is related to the promotion communication. There is an overlapping also in this case. And also the level of engagement is very, very high, in my opinion. And well, if we talk about the transfer of monetary and economic resources, this belongs just to dam owners devoted to electricity production, to hydropower. But this is normal because, you know, most of the dam owners devoted to water supply are public bodies. So we cannot expect to have money transfer or transfer of economic resources. Or in some cases, water transfers, well, in the case of dam owners devoted to water supply that don't want, well, the transfer of water is in the, let's say, the basic activity they have to carry out. On the other side, after having investigated the point of view or the actions, better to say, related to what the monarch has done, we have tried to assess in some way what was the point of view of stakeholders. And what we have tried to analyze. Well, first of all, what was the role, the perceived role of dams among the people, the population at large. Also the perception of dam owners' proactivity. And also the importance that is given to form of participation cooperation. Well, I think that some of the people that are here present have participated to some of the workshops that we have called the Dams and Territory, Dighe Territorio in Italian. And we arrived now to the, how many? 8 workshops plus one online during the COVID period. And it has been a very, very, very huge activity carried out all around Europe. Just yesterday, I had a talk with some friends of Sardinia, and we really hope that in spring 2025, we will be able to arrange a new event also in that region. I'm very confident that this can be done. And as you can notice in the slide and the map of Italy, we have started from the very north, and we have all basically moved all around Italy. This is, let's say, an experience that, as far as I know, has been carried out in a so wide way, probably also in Italy. And according to what Sarah Lazaridou said before, this kind of investigation of actions could be carried out also in other countries. At least this is my hope. And well, just a few words about the main point that has been put into evidence by the stakeholders. Of course, the stakeholders were of different kinds. Of course, were regions, public bodies, but as well as people who belong to the, let's say, groups of interest. Oh, we had the participation also of Legambiente, by the way. So also those bodies that work in the field of this in this field have been also involved in our activities. So talking about the environmental aspect very, very shortly, I will say that the wildlife protection or the creation of oases and so on have been considered as important. So this is the position. I just wish to remind you, this is the position, the points that have been extracted from the what was expressed by the stakeholders that were present during the workshop. Another aspect was related to the need to have dams able to mitigate the flood risk or to intervene when water deficit is present. And these aspects are very, very important in this period as well. Other aspects make reference to impact of climate change on the water resource availability. The control of water quality is another very important aspect. And the problem of sedimentation that most of you know that is a very, very important aspect that is to be kept in mind, considering that almost between 20 and 30% of the disposability of water, the availability of water is reduced because of siltation or sedimentation in the reservoir. So this is a very, very big issue that has to be analyzed. Also the problem of optimal environmental outflow as well as the thermopeaking or hydropeaking phenomena have been considered as important aspect that has to be taken into account with with attention. Another aspect that is more social economic aspects are related to the water release to support the local economy and also the processes of consultation. In some cases, the process consultation gives rise to monetary compensation of impacts, but it is not always done. Also, other different kind of results can be achieved. And another important aspect that is very connected with the presentation of Sarah is the visit to dams and power plants, or the creation of eco museums, or the promotion of sport competition, the educational activities, and so on. And we have called this complementary aspects, but not because they are less important than the previous one. They are a different category. So one point is the importance of the multiple uses of water and the ancillary services as well to stabilize the electric grid, because there were some stakeholders that were aware of the importance of dams also in this field. And also the water storage. And another aspect that is important is the fighting against fire, that above all, in most of the region of in the south of Italy, this is a very important aspect that has to be kept in mind. And another aspect is the importance of the rehabilitation work, the reduction of risk, the dredging of sediment, again, because stakeholders are aware that the age of our dams is very high, and they need to be rehabilitated because you know, dams have part of the landscape of the areas. So where the dams are located. So it is important to maintain this this important heritage of that are present in our lands. Well, an aspect that surprised a little bit was related to some criticism about the mini hydro. Some of you can remember that some years ago, let's say 5 or between 10 and 5 years ago, it was a sort of boom of mini hydro plants. And well, actually, there is a sort of criticism because it doesn't seem that they have produced what it was expected by stakeholders in general. Because in terms of electricity production was very limited, and the possibility to guarantee a maintenance at a certain level, high level, was extremely difficult. So mini hydro, after a very, you know, first phase in which it was pushed also by newspapers, it has been criticized by many people who participated to the stakeholders who participated to these meetings. Another aspect that has been analyzed yesterday in the morning was related to the problem of concessions. This is basically an Italian problem, or not only Italian, but above all Italian problem, and hopefully in some way, let's hope that will be found a solution, because this is a really big issue and a critical issue if it will not be solved in the most quick and the correct way. Because as you know, many concessions are more or less arriving to the end. So it's important to try to find the best possible solution. And well, I don't want to spend too many words to this slide. These are just a list of the activities in which our work, the work of ICOLD has been presented, starting in Antalya and Turkey many years ago, 8 years ago, and the last presentation of these activities with new aspects that has been taken into account has been done in New Delhi very recently, just as 1 month ago. And for those who are interested to know more about this activity, there is a bulletin that has been issued in 2021. So it is possible to download the bulletin and to have more information. And Sarah has already presented in her slide the manifesto in which we are working. And I think that in the next month, we will produce a new version of the manifesto. Or perhaps, Sarah, perhaps we will present 2 different levels of manifesto. One more technical that will be devoted basically to those who have a technical competence. And another that we can say more basic, that can be, spread all around people who do not have a particular background in the field of technical matters. And Sarah has already presented the dam day at the European level, and this is the picture that we have used for the dam day carried out in Italy. And just to go to conclusion, I wish to say that we will continue, as it's called, to organize this kind of events. I told you that we think that in Sardinia next year or next spring we will be able to organize a new event. And the main objective is to try to give our little contribution to overcome the prejudices about the role of dams, to promote the public acceptability. Of course, keeping into account also all the shortcomings that dams and the hydropower plants and the hydro plants have. But what is not in general taken into account, for instance, by newspapers, is a balance. Because every activity, every human activity has problems because there are negative aspects. But on the other side, you have to make a balance, consider also the positive aspects. And so from this balance, it can be taken the most reasonable choice. And so it is important to facilitate the comparison between the different points of view and the different interests that are at the base of the debate and of the discussion that has to be maintained. And well, this closes my speech. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Guido. We are now going to collect the last contribution to this workshop by a remote connection. Let's see if it works properly. It should be a contribution from Dr. Grimaldi and Coccaro related to the system of dams serving the Southern Hydrographic Basin in Italy. Are they connected? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear.
Yes, we hear you, so please, you have the floor. Thank you for being here with us.
Thanks a lot. Sorry for being so late and also for presenting in Italian, but from some mistakes internal of the authority, I didn't have the time to prepare this contribution.
Can you speak a bit louder, please? Just a bit.
Okay. Could you hear me?
Hear you and you see your presentation on the screen. You can start.
Perfect. I am Giuseppe Maria Grimaldi from the Authority of Basin of the Southern Apennine District. This is the localization of the authority. Quindi l'autorità di bacino, le autorità di bacino nascono con la legge 183 dell'89 e hanno un lunghissimo iter amministrativo che arriva fino ai giorni nostri. Si è passati dai piani di assetto idrogeologico, rischio frane e rischio alluvioni, ai piani anche di gestione della risorsa idrica. Gestione fondamentale per lo sviluppo del territorio, in quanto consente di definire al meglio quelle che sono non solo le disponibilità idriche, ma anche l'ottimizzazione degli usi. L'autorità di bacino distrettuali nascono con il decreto legislativo 152 del 2006 e hanno lo scopo di omogenizzare il territorio nazionale, che era frazionato in 40 unità, fino ad arrivare a 7 autorità di bacino distrettuali, uno dei 110 di quelli europei. Alcuni numeri: la superficie coperta dall'autorità di bacino è circa 68.000 km quadrati, ha una popolazione di circa 13 milioni e mezzo di abitanti e comprende un territorio costituito da 7 regioni. L'autorità di bacino opera per piani stralcio, che sta dai piani stralcio stiamo arrivando ai piani di gestione, e opera con gli altri enti attraverso delle intese. Il segretario, quindi all'interno del territorio dell'autorità di bacino si muovono ogni anno, ci vengono trasferiti ogni anno circa 870 milioni di metri cubi di risorsa idrica, attraverso sia disponibilità di risorsa da sorgenti, ovvero acque sotterranee, che attraverso trasferimenti di acque superficiali. Come si vede dal prospetto, ci sono alcune regioni, come la Puglia, che hanno necessità dei quantitativi di risorsa idrica, altre che sono praticamente in pareggio, ad esempio la Campania, e altre regioni che sono dei fornitori netti, come la Basilicata e il Molise. Il distretto dell'Appennino meridionale si tiene appunto assieme attraverso quelli che sono i trasferimenti di risorsa idrica. Contrariamente a ciò che si pensa e a ciò che stiamo guardando, osservando nell'arco di quest'anno, il distretto dell'Appennino meridionale ha grandissima disponibilità di risorsa idrica, anche di eccelsa qualità, soprattutto acque sotterranee. Il problema è la gestione, ovvero quanto si riesca ad ottimizzare il trasferimento e l'utilizzo della risorsa idrica. Un ruolo fondamentale in questo sistema è svolto dalle 81 grandi dighe presenti a livello territoriale, ovvero dighe che hanno o oltre 1 milione di metri cubi di capacità di invaso o un'altezza superiore ai 15 metri. Tra queste voglio ricordare la diga in terra con manto impermeabile più grande d'Europa, la diga di Monte Cotugno, che ha un volume di invaso di circa 500 milioni di metri cubi. La legge finanziaria, ovvero la legge 145 del 2018, individua nel segretario generale, ovvero il vertice dell'autorità di bacino distrettuale dell'Appennino meridionale, il commissario per l'attuazione degli interventi di efficientamento di 8 grandi dighe presenti all'interno del distretto tra le 81. le 8 grandi dighe che erano in gestione dell'ente irrigazione, si chiamava EIPLI, attualmente trasformato in una società a partecipazione pubblica, Acque del Sud. Queste grandi dighe si trovano principalmente nel territorio della regione Basilicata e marginalmente la diga di Conza e la diga di Serra del Corvo nei territori della regione Campania e Puglia. Assieme alle 8 grandi dighe, anche i grandi sistemi di adduzione, come vedremo tra poco. Questa slide, vado veloce, rappresenta l'insieme di tutti i finanziamenti che ammontano a circa 68 milioni di euro affidati al segretario generale per l'efficientamento di questi sistemi. Di questi circa 18 milioni di euro hanno la funzione, hanno lo scopo di individuare e di progettare tutte quelle azioni necessarie per ulteriori interventi di efficientamento finalizzati a rendere il sistema sempre più resiliente e in grado di affrontare le necessità derivanti da periodi siccitosi, quale quello che stiamo vivendo adesso nell'Italia meridionale, interconnettendo sistemi idrici complessi. In particolare, questa immagine evidenzia quelle che sono le dighe sulle quali il segretario generale agisce come commissario per l'efficientamento, i grandi sistemi di adduzione e le criticità individuate. In particolare, i 3 schemi complessi sono lo schema dell'Ofanto, che ha numerose dighe all'interno. Tra queste dighe 2 sono quelle di competenza del segretario generale, ovvero la diga di Conza e la diga di Saetta. Lo schema Basento-Bradano, con le grandi dighe del Camastra. La diga del Camastra, giusto un focus, fornisce la risorsa potabile alla città di Potenza e a un agglomerato di 29 paesi per una popolazione di circa 130.000 abitanti e in questo momento in una grave crisi di risorsa idrica. Lo schema poi continua con le dighe di Acerenza, Genzano e chiude con la diga di Serra del Corvo. E poi lo schema Ionico-Sini con le 2 grandi dighe appunto del Pertusillo e di Montecotugno. Cosa porterà l'azione commissariale all'efficientamento di queste dighe con un recupero di oltre 300 milioni di metri cubi di risorsa immasabile ogni anno, dei quali la maggior parte sono sullo schema centrale, ovvero lo schema Basento-Bradano per circa 100 milioni di metri cubi e lo schema Ionico-Sinni per circa 200 milioni di metri cubi. Giusto un inciso, attualmente la diga di Montecotugno, che ha un volume massimo di circa 500 milioni di metri cubi, un volume di regolazione di circa 480 milioni di metri cubi, è attualmente limitata al deficit manutentivi a circa 250 milioni di metri cubi di volume. Questo deficit consentirà, quindi questo recupero consentirà di colmare circa il 50% dell'attuale deficit presente sulle 81 dighe del distretto dell'Appennino meridionale. Come si vede, gran parte sono proprio quelle che mancano, i volumi che mancano alle dighe della Basilicata. Che azione sta facendo il segretario generale? In primis le valutazioni di vulnerabilità sismica, sia degli sbarramenti che delle opere accessorie. Questo è un esempio, la diga di Conza, che è una diga strategica a livello distrettuale. La diga di Conza, infatti, è una di quelle dighe che alimenta, come abbiamo visto nelle slide iniziali, la fornitura di risorsa idropotabile verso la Puglia, verso la parte nord della Puglia. oltre che alimentare gran parte dell'intero schema, sia per parte irrigua che per parte industriale. Su questa diga, oltre alle valutazioni di vulnerabilità sismica, l'autorità di bacino sta svolgendo anche le funzioni di progettazione e di interventi di efficientamento. Ad esempio, questo è uno degli sfioratori di superficie con le paratoie ormai abbassate, su cosa stiamo lavorando e su cosa stiamo intervenendo nella sostituzione della movimentazione delle paratoie al fine di consentire il recupero di quota di immaso. Similarmente stiamo lavorando anche su quella che è la manutenzione di queste opere, questo sempre lo sfioratore della diga di Conza, e sull'adeguamento sismico di alcuni manufatti che non erano verificati. Ad esempio il pozzo dell'opera di presa. Vado veloce. Ulteriori interventi di manutenzione che stiamo seguendo è quello sull'intero paramento di monte della diga con la sostituzione dei lastroni e la manutenzione straordinaria, in realtà è un vero e proprio revamping della cabina elettrica che era arrivata a una situazione veramente complicata con una sola linea in funzione. Su un'altra diga, quella di Saetta, stiamo ripristinando completamente il manto impermeabile. Chiedo scusa, faccio un passo indietro. La diga di Conza è una diga in terra con nucleo impermeabile. La diga di Saetta è una diga in terra omogenea con manto impermeabile. Questi lavori ormai sono in fase di ultimazione. Con quelle risorse che ammontano a circa 18 milioni di euro, l'autorità di bacino sta anche affrontando le azioni di efficientamento complessivo del sistema. Ad esempio sullo schema dell'Ofanto, dove gli interventi strutturali riguardano solo 2 dighe, la diga di Conza e la diga di Saetta, stiamo lavorando sull'ottimizzazione della gestione dell'intero schema, considerando non solo le 2 dighe, la diga di Conza e di Saetta, ma tutto il resto delle altre dighe, la diga di San Pietro, la diga di Monte Melillo o del Locone. Questa è una diga che supera i 100 milioni di metri cubi di risorsa stoccata, oltre che la diga di Abate Alonia, che è una diga da ripristinare per arrivare a un uso ottimale. Non solo nelle condizioni ottimali, raggiungendo il massimo volume di progetto delle dighe, ad esempio la diga di Conza, ma anche utilizzando il volume attualmente limitato della stessa diga al fine di consentire non solo l'utilizzo delle risorse per i fini irrigui, ovvero per i fini originari con i quali erano nate le dighe, ma anche per consentire l'ottimale utilizzo della risorsa idrica. Un breve inciso, l'anno scorso l'autorità di bacino è riuscita a chiudere con un tavolo a 3, Regione Campania, Regione Puglia e autorità di bacino, l'accordo tra i trasferimenti idrici della risorsa tra le regioni Campania e Puglia. E la diga di Conza è una diga fondamentale in quanto consentirà di sopperire alla mancata approvvigionamento da alcune sorgenti. Per lo schema centrale vado veloce, so che mancano pochi minuti. Non solo stiamo ripristinando alcuni interventi, ma l'autorità di bacino sta lavorando anche a delle interconnessioni tra alcune dighe, la diga del Camastra e la traversa di Trivigno, e la diga di Genzano, ovvero il partitore del Marascione, e la diga del Locone, per interconnettere gli schemi idrici dell'Alto Ofanto e del Basento Bradano. Velocemente, le attuali interconnessioni che avvengono con dei sistemi di adduzione, l'adduttore Acerenza-Genzano, che è un adduttore di circa 14 chilometri, realizzato con tubazioni in acciaio fuori terra, tubazioni in calcestruzzo interrate e gallerie, che era stato interrotto da un evento franoso agli inizi degli anni 2000, lo stiamo ripristinando con un bypass i cui lavori sono già iniziati con degli interventi lungo la galleria Acerenza-Genzano, che era una galleria che presentava molti vuoti in calotta, che non era mai entrata in funzione. Questo sistema di adduzioni consente di mettere in comunicazione appunto il fiume Bradano con il fiume Ofanto e consente di riempire, di alimentare la diga di Genzano di Lucania, che è una diga che non ha un vero e proprio bacino idrografico, ma che viene alimentata appunto una diga volano attraverso questo sistema di adduzioni. Le nuove interconnessioni le stiamo studiando e prevederanno nuovi sistemi di adduzioni fuori terra, oltre che alcuni tratti di galleria. Questi sistemi sono immaginati per essere utilizzati anche in doppia direzione, ovvero non solo alimentare a gravità la diga del Locone, ma in caso di necessità derivanti da crisi idriche anche in senso inverso con sistemi di pompaggio. Un aspetto fondamentale, sempre sullo schema, che riguarda alcune dighe in particolare, è quello là dello sfangamento su cui stiamo lavorando. Questo in particolare la diga del Camastra, attualmente interessato da un fortissimo interrimento che limita l'utilizzo anche degli scarichi di fondo e delle opere di presa. Infine voglio chiudere con l'ultimo schema, lo Ionico Sinni. Questo è dall'alto lo sbarramento e la localizzazione delle opere accessorie a servizio della diga. Per questa diga sono state completate tutte le rivalutazioni sismiche sia dello sbarramento che delle opere accessorie, rendendo necessari alcuni interventi solo per la torre di presa, ma su questa diga stiamo lavorando anche attraverso un'intesa con il Dipartimento di Architettura della Federico II per realizzare alcuni interventi che hanno la funzione sia di inserimento paesaggistico nell'ambito di un master che si chiama Rescape, progetto dei paesaggi a rischio, ma anche di interventi che abbiano una funzionalità specifica. In particolare in sponda destra, dato che le rivalutazioni idrologiche e idrauliche non consentivano lo smaltimento della portata millenaria, abbiamo progettato e siamo in fase di affidamento lo scarico di superficie ausiliario in destra idraulica, che prevede una galleria e un'opera di smaltimento. E a monte abbiamo progettato una passerella pedonale che ha anche lo scopo di contenere parte dei sedimenti che arrivano dal Sinni in una zona dove la possibilità di rimozione avviene in maniera meccanica e non solo attraverso le idrovore, per diminuire i costi di gestione di questi impianti, di questa rimozione, e consentirne l'efficientamento. Questa è la passerella invece pedonale che consentirà la connessione tra le due sponde dell'attuale lago. Grazie.
Grazie dottor Grimaldi del contributo che siamo riusciti a seguire bene, anche se non ha potuto essere presente. Abbiamo con questo completato la raccolta dei contributi, abbiamo un piccolo spazio per la discussione. Servono le mani alzate. Prego, c'è subito una domanda. Non esageriamo. In inglese o in italiano? Forse è meglio in inglese, si è rivolta meglio in inglese.
Well, first of all, thanks to all the speakers for their inspiring speech. Among all of them, I wish to ask. Okay, can you hear me? Among all of you, I would like to ask a question to Emanuele. First of all, because he's a young professional, and as Mrs. President Sarah said, we need the younger generation in the dams world. So welcome, Emanuele. As Damming said, without data, you are just another person with an opinion. So I completely agree with you and with your study. I come from the road infrastructure world, and we face the same problems in the past years until the dramatic events of Genoa. So my question is, have you ever think to ask the question not directly to the owners or to the dams owners or to the subject who owns the dams, but to government? Because in some ways, every dams owner today is already obliged to collect some data. Maybe they're not interesting to your study, but they have still the obligation to collect data and to send them to the central authorities, especially in Italy. I don't really know if it's the same on the other European countries, but in my opinion, for your work, it's better to ask and to pose to ask the question from to an upper level, to the government level, because maybe at that level you will get the answer you need, because until hopefully we'll not have a dramatic event, but until owners are not obliged to share some of their information, you'll get few data, very heterogeneous among them, and you will miss data. So
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Please.
Thank you for the suggestion. Yes, this is a very great idea. Generally, we try to ask to the owner because they own their data. So in this way, they can decide what they can share. But this could be another option. Yeah. Thank you.
Another question there, please.
Good morning, everyone. Another question also related to the data of Manuele 40. Actually, not a question, but I would like to play a little bit the devil's advocate now, because I work for Mass Consulting. We provide products and services to the companies you probably asked about those data. For example, we work with Alperia and Dolomiti. And for example, this kind of data really sensitive for them, because, for example, if you have the inflows and the water level, you can, let's say, easily deduct how they operate, for example, in the market, or what kind of strategies they employ. So they don't want to share those data, or they cannot share the data even if they wanted for antitrust reason. And that is one kind of problem you may face. Another kind of problem is those data are not maybe easily available. For example, the objective of our product is to make this data available for these companies easily. We participate in a European project, you may know, the Hydro. And for example, we work with companies from European countries, and we also asked for the data in the scope of this project. And some companies don't even have daily data. For example, they have monthly data, or they don't even take data at all. So maybe another kind of problem you may face is those companies don't even have the data, or they don't have the data really readily available. So it would be some work for them to get the data. And if you cannot provide them a reason to give you the data, they are not willing to put in the work.
Okay, thank you for the comment. It's not a question, it's a comment. So, Ambrogi, please.
nothing happening. Okay, thank you. I just want to thank the organization of this symposium of Aquawatt and congratulate yourself because, of course, the main thing I have taken from these 2 days is the fact of changing the narrative about dams and hydropower. Hydropower has been confined somewhat in a limbo. In our talking in the industry managers, when I try to speak about hydro, they say, oh, it's a mature technology. No, it's not mature. They think it is obsolete. Now, the narrative I've heard today is changing the perspective. And as Antonella has said, the conditions are changing. And so I want to make a suggestion to the ETIP hydropower, because you have 3 working groups or implementing groups, or as they are known. Well, the first thing to be taken into the arena of industry or economy is that hydropower is a renewable energy. When we talk about renewable energy, they all think about solar and wind, and that's all. Hydropower is a renewable energy. And the other things comes after, with adaptation to climate change is very, very important. The fact that we are losing glaciers, for instance, is a very important thing because it is something that goes with. So please, the first thing to say is working through 3, climate change, renewable energy, and everything is, other benefits are very important for that. And of course, not to be confined in a silo of a very old technology. The fact of opening, as I've heard today, to the water, energy, food nexus is of paramount importance to change the narrative and to put this in another perspective that is needed for our industry and for our economy.
Thank you, Ambrogi, for the contribution. Other comments or questions? Think a bit. I give you some time making a short question to Lino. It's not prepared, it's a fresh question. In your presentation, I noticed that when you describe the roadmap for the finalization of the World Declaration, there are several associations and entities involved in addition to ICOLD. And if I saw well, I noticed also the logo of WWF. That could be very interesting and important. It was a hope or a planned involvement?
Yes, good question. It is very difficult generally. Yeah, I think it's good. Yes, it is not easy to have the big organization like UECN or WWF involved, but we are trying to. I was very interested of the presentation by somebody of, I don't know exactly if it is an NGO or if it is a public NGO. Yes, I think you presented a very balanced view on dams. And so to answer the Giovanni questions, we are in relation with this organization, and we hope to attract some of them. Not sure we will succeed. Thank you.
Lino. Thank you.
It's okay? Okay. I just want to move from the, let's say, technical plane to a more political. Very recently, I heard on the radio, I think, that very soon there will be the COP29 in Baku. And probably next year it will be the COP30 in Brazil, I think, if I remember well. Well, it is not, well, it is a questions and not, I don't know exactly. But what I have in mind that it seems to me that so far the results that have been obtained thanks to all these COPs are not very useful for the community, because the positions of the of some countries are, in competition with the position of other countries, the United States from one side, the European countries, and the so-called come si chiamano i paesi in via di sviluppo, the countries under development, and there is a balance that cannot be found. So the question is to Michel, to Sarah, but to everybody. I don't know if somebody tried to follow this kind of problems, but which could be, in your opinion, the role of hydropower and of the hydro in general? It has a role, can really give an appreciable support, or it can give some answers to the problems that are posed to a very, very high level that hits in some way the life of everybody. So I do not have an answer, really. But in the paper position of ICOLD, for instance, there are some topics, some aspects that can be in some way included in this speech, I think. I don't know if Michel or Sarah or some other people want to comment on that.
The comment, yes, we plan to have an impact on the declaration in Belém, Brazil. So in Baku, we will be present, but probably to prepare the next year. I don't know if it is inefficient. I think that if we manage to have the acknowledgement, the recognizance of the role of reservoir, dams and reservoir in clean energy transition, water storage, and so on, I think it could be a change for the political people, because we have first to convince the public, but also the political people. I don't know what the situation here. In Marseille, we organized the last Congress of, the last Congress of ICOLD, and we had not a single politician in the attendance. So it was very close to the French elections. So maybe it's one of the reasons. But it is very difficult to speak to the politician, to the decision makers at the higher level. And we think that maybe the COP are one of the possibilities. But of course, we are realistic also.
Okay, regarding the ETIP hydropower, we organized the Brussels Hydropower Day in Brussels just to have people from the European Commission present at our meeting, and it's a good way to have them because they were not so far from the meeting point. So in the last event, we had some of them that reach us and talk about hydropower and the position. So it's the way that we have to get in touch with the policymaker and to exchange information. It's not easy because sometimes they say at the last moment we can take part of that, but it's the only way. So for this reason, we have always the hydropower day in Brussels. And regarding the position of environmental association, I could say that, for example, WWF, the European position is against them. But if you get in touch with people working in other parts of the world, they have different positions. So it's, I think I could say, a problem related to Europe, but we must interface with them, we must exchange information, we must try to make them understand our position that is based on data, not on ideologism thinking. So it's important to communicate with them.
Di Simine?
Additionally to all this, we're talking about the public awareness and about the citizens, but yes, in parallel, we have to persuade politicians more. I will give an example from the Greek committee. You all know that we had a conference in early September. It was the first time that we really tried to persuade politicians to attend the conference, because we were feeling that it would be okay, it is of course of value. We want people to get engaged. We want the professionals, but we realize that we do all that as a community, but all the messages are not reaching the politicians. And what we did is that we made a special session for hydropower. We tried to persuade people from the hydropower industry to come and make presentations, not only the dam owners, but also from the government. And we succeeded in having the consultant, the personal consultant of the Prime Minister of Greece, which was of very, very good value. That means that something is happening and they show some interest. They are about now, they have just issued the new energy plan. So we can see that things are happening, but we also have to persuade them. We have to try. If we do not try, if we don't ask, the answer is no. This is what we realized. Thank you.
Yeah, with regard to narrative, well, we can discuss a lot of very fascinating arguments on electric system, stabilization, and role of dams in adaptation. A lot of stimulating arguments on which environmentalists and sector of dams can discuss with a lot of freedom. But I suggest to don't undervalue the topic of safety. This is because the energy transition is something of really needed, but also really fragile. We cannot allow that a major accident in the sector of dams will destroy every narrative. And I'm very worried in the Italian landscape, because to see that many dam owners operate without concessions is something that is extremely not responsible. With a lack of investment, a lack of programs for the future, investment for improve the production, okay, but also for guarantee the safety of the system. So we need, as a prerequisite for every discussion, a very reliable sector of dams and hydropower production, because the impression in the last few years, especially in the north, where dams are linked to the energy production, is that dams and reservoirs were cow to milk for many operators. Cows to milk, okay, in terms of no investment, but they give a lot of money without invest in the network of reservoir and infrastructure. So we must change the narrative, but with this topic that must put before safety first.
I'd like to make a comment on that and ask you a question. I take advantage of being a moderator, so I ask questions. The comment is that even if what you said is absolutely correct, let's assume that, you should consider the fact that in Italy, I'm talking in Italy, we have powerful, really powerful dam authority. And it's not a joke that I can say the Italian dams are safe. Not because all of them are safe, but if they are not safe, for sure, the National Dam Authority identified and impose limitation in the operation. So it's not good to see a dam limited, okay? But it's a choice that can ensure safety. In this regard, the question is, my opinion is that in Italy, it's almost impossible to construct new dams, okay, for understandable reason. But personally, I feel that we have an opportunity. In the last 10, 20 years, much more repair, maintenance, and rehabilitation have been motivated by the age of the dams that we have shown. But my question is, if I put money, sometimes a lot of money, to maintain, sometimes to make an extraordinary maintenance, sometimes to rehabilitate a dam, why don't we take into consideration the possibility to make the dam not only safe as before, but safer and a bit higher, not to improve, for example, the hydroelectrical production that does not take great advantage of some meters more, but to have more stock of water resources to be useful for other. My personal feeling is that there is a kind of a priori negative attitude against this type of intervention, but I think that even the environmental effects should be rather reduced in some of these cases. So do you think, as a personal feeling, that this topic could be discussed with some possibility of success, or it will encounter the same difficulty that the new projects have?
Well, we can consider every project of also of a more high dam. I think the priority is to use better the nominal capacity of the wall of the dams, because we have a lot of capacity that is not exploited. So I think that this is a priority, and you can do it without increasing the environmental impact. So, but we can also discuss of that topic, and we'll make an environmental evaluation, impact assessment, and we'll discuss with the local community, and you will find in our organization a stakeholder that sit on the table and discuss which are the impact. But please consider the sensitivity of the safety. Yeah, in peacetime, but also in wartime, because what we saw in Ukraine is that dams are a strategic target in case of war, and I hope we'll never have a new war. But what I am seeing now is something really worrying. So also imagine the worst scenario is something that we must take into account.
Thank you for the comment. Other final question? Oh, Michel.
No, maybe a comment also. Just about this question of raising dam. This option has been considered very seriously in Switzerland, which is very similar. It has been mentioned. I don't know if it is Sarah or Antonella. I think that in Europe it is probably the most feasible option, and it has to be considered. My second comment would be about dam safety. For ICOLD, it remains the main concern of the dam community. And there are many threats on dam safety, and I will just mention three of them. The first one is aging. Our world population of dam is aging, and it is not it is possible to deal with it, but with a lot of money and a lot of political will and so on. Maybe the second one, and probably not the case in Italy, but in the world, and especially developing world, is the new way to build dams and to decide and manage dam industry. There was in the last 3 decades, let's say, there was a massive intervention of the public sector, and it changed a lot the perspective about dam safety, in my opinion. So I think that this also, and it is reflected in the statistics. A lot of new dams had problems during first filling or the 5 first years of experience. That's something that has to be managed and corrected. And the last of the 3 threats is climate change. In the last decade, a lot of embankment dams especially, but not only, failed by overtopping. And we have to face that even in Europe, I would say, and even around the Mediterranean Sea or the Black Sea and so on, because these mass of water are warmer and warmer and generates events that our dams are not prepared to face. So I completely agree that, and I understand that for the society, for environmental NGO, dam safety is also a major question. And my last word would be to say, we spoke of energy, but we also spoke about water storage. We have different solutions for energy. Hydropower is one of the options. For water, we have no option. Water is critically needed. Yeah. Yes, of course. I let this for this remote. The last word, maybe.
Thank you. Is there any final question or not? Okay, no. So I thank you all the audience for the attentive participation, and it's my pleasure to close this section and this workshop. See you next time. Bye.
Thank you to all.